Are you joined at the hip with the most important people in your world? Michael McLean, NoBullBook.com, BadassLetter.com on another amazing August morning. 15,000 steps, lemon water, writing, reading, own the morning, win the morning. After lunch, I will conquer the chaos. I will turn on my phone. I will answer emails. I will answer text messages. I will answer faxes. I will conquer the chaos in the afternoon. And then at 5 p.m., it's family dinner time. And it's time to invest my time with the people that matter the most to me. No working in the evenings, no cell phone, no internet. Just both feet in today. Own the mornings. Win your morning. The first 3 hours to 4 hours to 5 hours of the day are the most critical. Then conquer the chaos in the afternoon, which is normal in business, messy kitchen. And then get home for 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and have both feet in today with the most important people in your world. So, are you joined at the hip with the most important and influential people in your world? This is a great story from my 2019 Barclay Cup Championship Perth Blue Wings hockey team. We had been building that championship team over 5 glorious years. It was blood, sweat, tears, money, you name it. We chased that championship ring for 5 seasons before we finally lifted the cup in 2019. First time that a small community like Perth had won that championship since 1994. It was 24 years of drought, and we were able to accomplish that goal in 2019. Upsetting the powerhouse Ottawa Canadiens in 5 games. One of the things that I look back, people say, Michael, how did you win the championship? What was the secret? What was the key? What was the number one thing? Which of course is the wrong thinking. That's lazy, as if there's a shortcut, as if there's steps to winning a championship, as if there's a hack to winning a championship. As if there's a shortcut to putting a ring on your finger. Like, it's the exact opposite of that. It's the 12,000 things that we did. It's the 12,000 details that we did, and that only gave us an opportunity to win. Then we still had to do all the things to win, including making our own luck, grinding, championship effort, championship mental toughness, championship execution, all of it. Just to have a chance to win. Winning isn't interested in hacks. Winning isn't interested in shortcuts. And winning isn't interested in what's the number one thing that moved the needle. There is no number one thing that moves the needle. It's just day after day pounding the rock, heading in the right direction. 10,000 hits, nothing. Hit the stone one more time, it may crack open. That's what winning looks like. Nothing pretty about that. So I have a term called joined at the hip, and I use it with all the people in my life. I use it with my wife and myself. I use it with my daughter and myself. I use it with Marc-Andre and Leanne, my 2 staff members. I use it with my 2 barbers at the barber shop. I use it with my coaches in hockey, and I've used it with my players, all the athletes over the years in pro and amateur. So it's one of the most powerful concepts I've ever had. And we wouldn't have won the Barclay Cup in 2019 without this joined at the hip concept or secret or principle, whatever you want to call it. And first of all, I'll set the table. I cannot stand dishonesty. It's a sick to my stomach moment where somebody is less than honest with me. Whether it's an employee, whether it's a family member, anybody in my world that's dishonest is going to be curated. They're going to get the swift sword and they're going to be gone because like the great Brene Brown says, clear is kind and unclear is unkind. So I want brutal honesty in my life. I want to know what's coming. I want to know what I'm dealing with. I can't progress, I can't grow, I can't improve if I'm not dealing with the truth. So this is something that I emphasize with all of my sports teams, my hockey teams, but sometimes you got to enforce it, because brutal honesty is not normal for 99% of people. 99% of people are politically correct. 99% of businessmen are patronizing. 99% of businessmen are unkind because they're unclear. So whenever I run into this, I don't hesitate for a second to fix the problem. So the example I'll give you, and this would have cost us our championship, and it literally happened 5 years before we won in 2019. So I hired Bill White, who is a cleaner general manager. Let's just leave it at that. He recruits players 12 months a year. He builds teams that are next to unstoppable. He's a Saban recruiter. He's a Krzyzewski recruiter. He's a Bobby Bowden in the Florida Days recruiter. He's one of those guys who never stops, never turns it off, and he's going to build your team and give you a solid talent base where then you have an opportunity to compete for a championship. So I brought Bill in 2015. I took over the team. They were in 22nd place, dead last in the entire league. The very first phone call I made, the very first hire I made, was Bill White as our general manager. And he brought with him 27 years of experience at that job. Second thing I did is I hired a coach, Brian Greer, who had been there the year before. He had been through the 22nd place finish, but he's a friend of mine and he's an excellent coach. So he was the only person I brought back from that rat poison team that was in 22nd place. I took a broom to the place. I created a new locker room. There wasn't anything I didn't get rid of. We got rid of 100% of the players, 100% of the staff, and the only people that we kept were the volunteers and Brian as this one assistant coach. And of course, I was the head coach. So right off the bat, we have a powerhouse team in 2015, and we're on our quest to put a championship ring on our finger for the first time in 20-some years. So we're about a month into the season, and Bill is this type of guy where he likes to do his own thing. He's used to running his own show. I let him handle the general manager stuff. I don't want anything to do with that. He's the recruiter. He does the trades. He does the waivers. He does goes to the meetings. He does all that stuff. A lot of paperwork, scouting, drafting, all this stuff. And Brian, as an assistant coach, he's on the bench with me, with Bill. He's in charge of running the forwards. Bill runs the defense, and I run the entire bench. I'm the head coach. So the first month, they didn't know each other very well, and I pegged this as a potential problem because you have beta male versus beta male. And you have two guys that are used to doing what they want. You have one from the losing culture who, has opinions of the players from the year before. And then you have Bill coming in who's used to running his own show. So I saw this as a potential problem in terms of chemistry with the coaching staff. So I was right in my prediction. And I noticed that on the bench, and these are just the first handful of games during that season, we're winning, and we're winning big. We started the season 15-0 as an example. We ended up 38-4 to smash the all-time 95-year-old Blue Wang record. We won. We didn't lose a single game after Christmas until the playoffs. That kind of powerhouse team. Marc-Andre LeBlanc, my business partner, was a rookie. He was a first-year player on this team. Played on the fourth line, powerhouse. So I noticed in the first month on the bench that these two would blame. They would just little subtleties, like, get your defenseman to pick that guy up, or get your forward to forecheck, or, that guy's got to, You shouldn't be playing that guy as much. Little things like this that only I would pick up. But it's a negative energy. It's a losing energy. So we're not all on the same page, right? So I'll never forget, there was one game at home, and the two of them, I don't know, we got scored on or something, and Bill said something to Brian. He yelled down the bench and said, "Get him to pick that guy up," or something like this. And then Brian just gave Bill the death stare. And whether the players are not picked up on that, it didn't matter. That stuff is cancer. That stuff is rat poison in your business. That's rat poison in your company. It's rat poison in your house. It's rat poison on your team. So I don't tolerate, and it doesn't take me long to fix problems. I don't let them. Clear is kind. So the period ended right then, and the players went upstairs to the locker room, and I have a private office up there as well. And as soon as we walked into that private office where we always sit down and look at the video from the period and then go back in and address the players just before we go back out for the next period. So I shut that door, and Brian was sitting in front of me in one chair and Bill was sitting in front of me in the other chair. And I looked them straight in the eye. And they know my story. They know how I operate. And I looked both men in the eye and I said, "You two are joined at the hip. You two are joined at the hip. If this doesn't work out, you're gone and you're gone." And I let them sit there. I never said one more word. You two are joined at the hip. If for any reason this doesn't work out for him, or doesn't work out for you, or doesn't work out, you're both gone. 5 years later, when we lifted the cup in 2019, 4.5 years later, they'd become best friends almost immediately after that decision. They were roommates when we went to coaching clinics. They stayed together in the same room. Their wives are very good friends. We go to Florida together. We've been to the Florida Keys together. We've been to Boca Raton together. We've been on plane rides together. We've been on vacations together. We've been out at the cottage boating together, and we've won together. 5 straight years of nothing but winning, and then with the cherry on the top, championship before the lockdown and restrictions in 19. That's how I operate in terms of a team. Not just the players, but employees, people in my life. You're either in or you're out. And for anyone to think that in my world that I'm going to tolerate any nonsense for even 1 second, you are a fool who's already on the way out. On average, Marc-Andre told me the other day, he goes, "Michael, in those incredible teams that we put together for those 6 consecutive years," he said, "on average, you cleaned out 11 players per year." We're talking about setting records. We're talking about losing 4 games a year. We're talking about winning 42 games and losing 4. We're talking about winning games by an average of 5 goals. Good enough? Not if the chemistry's not good enough. If I smell a rat or I smell somebody that's not all in, there's no 50 shades of BS with me. It's all in or you're gone. But here's the thing that makes me different than all these other guys. I apply that to the trainers. I apply that to volunteers. I apply that to coaches, assistant coaches, video coaches. I don't give a shit who you are. If you're in my world, you better be all in. There better not be, I'm sort of in, toe in the water, or there better not be some of this cancerous, this guy said this and this guy said this, politics and drama or any of that stuff. You're gone. You're gone. If you're not pulling the rope in the way that I'm pulling the rope, every single person pulling the rope, if you take your hand off the rope, or you head west, or you head east when we're heading north, you're gone. That's how winners win. That's how champions put rings on their fingers. That's how a guy like Tom Brady operates. That's how a guy like Coach Pat Riley operates, even to this day as president of the Heat. That's how, you think of the great Montreal Canadiens 23 Stanley Cups, the most championships in sports history. That's how the Montreal Canadiens operated. You think Scotty Bowman cared what Guy Lafleur? You get another Guy Lafleur. If you're not all in, you're all out. Period. Joined at the hip. So I took this to the next level in my world when I was building my new world over the last 19 years. I'm constantly letting people know that everybody's on probation. Everybody's on probation in my world. If you think I'm joking, you haven't been inside my world. My clients, my prospects, my email list, my platinum newsletter subscribers, my gold newsletter subscribers, my $50,000 mastermind members, all on probation. As long as I know them, always on probation. If they go lame on me for any reason, cut. I'm too far in my career, too far in my life to suffer any fools, so I don't. But everybody in my world is joined at the hip. My wife and I are joined at the hip. It's my job to show up for her. When I don't show up for her like the man I'm supposed to be, like my creator intended me to be, she tells me, clear as kind. She tells me to my face, smarten up, get better. We're counting on you. So it goes two ways, but we're joined at the hip. There's nobody above my wife. There's no, golf buddy. There's no, friend I have or texting buddy or my mom or my dad. They're not above my wife. We are joined at the hip. Krista and I are a team. Not sort of a team. We're a team. And nobody comes above my ride or die partner. Nobody. Not my mom, not my dad, not my buddies from high school, not my golfing friends, none of your fucko friends, none of that. Your ride or die best friend is your ride or die best friend. Your queen. Nobody. Joined at the hip. We're joined at the hip. It's us against the world. As far as joined at the hip with all your employees. Why would you tolerate cancer, whether you have one employee or whether you have 15 employees, whether you have 35 employees? Anybody, they're all joined at the hip. And why not use that? When a guy comes into your office and he starts to whine and comply, and I used to do this when I was a manager of businesses, I'd have an employee come in and they'd say, Sally, I don't like working with Sally and she's always this. I go, just a second, just one moment. And I would literally buzz Sally and I would say, Sally, could you come into my office right now? And Sally'd come into my office and she'd stand there in front of Tracy. And now you got the two of them. Now you got the two of them in front of you. And Sally doesn't know anything about Tracy, but Tracy's in here stabbing her in the back until I step in. And I'm like, Tracy has something to say to you. Sally, Tracy has something she doesn't like about your performance. And Tracy stands there and pees her pants. And Sally stands there and like, wow. Do you think those two have a problem again? Do you think those two come into my office again and bitch and complain about each other behind their back? Do you think that word spreads, that that's the way I deal with whining, crying, and complaining? Just a second, I'll go get Bill. Brian's bitching about Bill here. Just a second, I'm going to go get Bill. Why Brian stands there and shits his pants. Then Bill comes in. Brian isn't happy about this. What do you think about that? That's how champions operate. That's how a cleaner operates a business. That's how Michael Jordan ran the Bulls. If he had a problem with Rodman, he went to Rodman's face and said, I got a problem. Work harder, smarten up, or get the hell out of here. We'll win with you, and we'll win without you. That's the great story about Michael Jordan. He never did recruiting calls. He would never do those put the knee pads on free agent recruiting calls that Pippen and those guys would do. When the Bulls were dominating, Strauss and whoever there, and the general manager and the owner, they would always get the players, a couple of the influential players, to call the free agent and encourage them to come and play in Chicago. That happens in every sport. It's just the way it is. Get Sidney Crosby to make a call to a free agent. It'll make a difference. Get Wayne Gretzky to make a call. Get, Tom Brady will bring. But it's so funny, Jordan didn't participate in any of that. He was like, screw that stuff. But in one case, and it's in the book, Winning or Relentless by Tim Grover, in this one case, he was on here and they're trying to get this guy. He's a free agent. He's a middle of the road player, but they want him, right, to come to the Bulls. So Pippen's on there and Phil's on there, and they're trying to get this guy. And they're all talking about Chicago and how great it is and how you got to sign here. And then finally, Jordan's on the call. He hasn't said anything to this point, and he says to the player they're trying to recruit, he's like, Tom, are you coming or not? And he goes, because we're winning with you or we're winning without you. That's my type of guy. Are you coming or not? Because we're winning with you or we're winning without you. I don't give a shit whether you play or not. And that's my mentality when it comes to employees. That's when it comes to people in my life. If you're not in, you're out. And that's fine. As long as you want to do your job, as long as you want to be, as you're part of the team. But the second you're whining and crying and bitching and complaining, as soon as you start to bring that rat poison near my world, adios, amigo, time to go. I've had 3 personal assistants, and all 3 of them have been tremendous. All 3 of them have been tremendous. The first 2 went lame on me, which they're supposed to. After 10 years, they can't take yours relentless anymore. So they start to bitch, they start to complain, they start to talk to my wife, they start to, Michael's so hard, Michael's so this, Michael's so that. Boom, first one gone. Same thing, tremendous years. Linda, great, great, great. I love it, Michael, most amazing job ever. Goes lame, Michael's too tough on me. I work on Saturdays, he never stops. Yours relentless, boom, gone, lame. And now, Leanne. You know, she's doing a tremendous job. We'll see if she has the staying power, because she doesn't strike me as a whiner or a crier or an excuse maker. She strikes me as tougher than the first 2, but only time will tell, because me and her are joined at the hip. We're joined at the hip. If this doesn't work out, she's gone. If this doesn't work out, even though Mark and I are partners, we're both gone. We're joined at the hip. He's part of this. He's a partner. I'm a partner. If Badass Millionaire doesn't make millions of dollars and we don't change a million lives, me and him are joined at the hip. We'll go our separate ways. There's nothing to discuss. So it's win or we're gone. I'm joined at the hip too. So my question is, how can you take this mentality? I hear guys talking about, you know, my receptionist doesn't get along with my service team and the service team doesn't get along with the sales team. I just can't imagine not bringing them all together into a room and fixing that problem in 30 seconds, where we're all joined at the hip. And if this doesn't work, if this sales, okay, if the service team sabotages the marketing campaign, you're all gone. If this marketing campaign doesn't work that we're investing in, if the sales guys don't close, or if the service people sabotage it by not collecting data, not collecting emails, not collecting cell phones, as an example. Service often sabotage an ad. You don't even know if the ad failed because your team, your receptionist doesn't answer the phone correctly, whatever it is. But I'd have them all in a room, whether there's 2 of them or whether there's 200 of them, you're all joined at the hip. You're all joined at the hip. That's how Andrew Carnegie's right-hand man did it. Schwab, when they had the 12-hour shifts in the coal mines, and he would write in a big circle with chalk on the factory floor the big number, which represented the productivity of the shift before. So the hundreds and hundreds of workers who were walking in first thing in the morning or first thing in the evening after a 12-hour shift, they're following the shift in. Here's this big number in the middle of the factory floor that is the productivity rating of the group before. I don't know what the number does. Doesn't matter. Maybe it's a 10, maybe it's a 9, maybe it's a 6, but it means something to these guys. But here's the message from Carnegie and Charles Schwab. If your shift loses 3 in a row, you're all gone. Period. You're all gone. You lose 3 shifts in productivity in a row. In other words, if they beat your ass 3 times in a row, you're gone. We'll get an all-new shift. And in those days, there was lots of guys looking for jobs, and those were key jobs. How different is that what you have today in today's world? Okay? Could you imagine holding politicians accountable like that? Could you imagine holding bureaucrats accountable like that? Could you imagine holding our school teachers accountable? If these kids can't read, you're gone. If you can't balance the budget, you're gone. If you can't turn around this and support the military and fix this problem, you're gone. We're all joined at the hip. It's just a matter of having the balls to hold people accountable. Joined at the hip. I wouldn't have my Barclay Cup championship ring. I wouldn't have that gorgeous ring on my finger if I hadn't had that conversation with Brian and Bill. You're both joined at the hip. If this doesn't work out, you're both gone. Marriage made in heaven after that. Marriage made in heaven. That's it for today. Make sure you do what I do. Hug your wife and children and tell them that they're the most important people in your world, because they are. Our world starts and ends with our family. I don't want to shoot videos without my wife and my daughter. I don't want to write newsletters without my wife and daughter. I don't want to hold masterminds without my wife and daughter. One of my big reasons why I'm out here every single day, 7 days a week, no days off, the reason I can outwork anybody, the reason I have passion and obsession, I want to make my wife Krista and my daughter Emery proud. Period. That's it. I'm no longer motivated by money. I love money. It's the scoreboard. Money loves me. But for me, that won't get me out here. Money won't get me out here. Okay? Writing books. You think I want to write a book for money? What's the difference? I'm already in a safe harbor position. What? You think I want to write a book leading up to Christmas? No. I want to make my wife and my daughter proud. Period. That's my why. That's why I'm shooting 365 videos in a row. That's why I'm writing books, newsletters, telegrams, faxes. That's why I'm on podcasts. That's why I'm working when I don't have to work another day in my life. I haven't had to work in 7, 8, 9 years. I want to make my wife and my daughter proud. Pretty simple life. So every day it's pretty important that I tell them that I love them, because they're the most important people in my life. If I don't tell them and I don't show them, how would they know? If I don't write the note, if I don't leave the post-it note if I don't constantly and consistently let them know that they're the most important people in my world, how do I expect them to know? I let them know every day we're joined at the hip and I'm here. I'm their protector. I'm their leader. I'm the king. My wife is the queen, and my daughter, she's the child. It's my job and Krista's job to raise her properly. End of story. So make sure that every day that's your number one priority. Speaking of number one priorities, if you want to start punching above your weight, if you want to be joined at the hip with the best of the best, you want to be joined at the hip with me for 12 months. You want me on your ass for 12 months. You want me in your ear for 12 months. You want me pushing you to 10x every area of your life. Give me $50,000 and join my Badass Champions Mastermind. I dare you. For the next 12 months, starting in September. We have 2 live events in Naples, weekly trainings with me. You're in a group with 15 killers. You're in a group with 15 Navy SEAL marketing attack dogs. The best. These guys aren't top 1%ers. They're top 1% of 1%ers. 10 million, 30 million, 40 million, good husbands, good fathers, good grandfathers, physically fit, Navy SEALs, attack dogs. You think if you're joined at the hip with those type of guys, plus myself, that you're going to have any choice but 10xing your world? That's the great thing about my mastermind, is you're going to have no opportunity to misbehave anymore. I'm going to make it impossible for you to live your old life. I'm going to insist that you 10x your income this year. I'm going to insist that you 10x your marriage. I'm going to insist that you 10x your relationship with your son, your daughter, your children. I'm going to insist that you 10x your community leadership footprint. I'm going to make sure that you 10x your reading, your writing, everything like that. Your mental health, your physical health, your time management. I am going to make you a time management machine. I'm going to hold your feet. I'm going to make you 10x your time management. I'm going to make the world slow down for you. And the guys that I'm around are going to do the same thing, because you're going to be joined at the hip. You can't get away with it. Can't get away with it. So if you have the mental guts to do this, it's world changing. If you really, really want to take it to the top level, if you've got that Tom Brady mentality, if you've got that Sidney Crosby mentality, if you've got that, Jimmy Johnson mentality, that you just, enough isn't enough, and you want more, or maybe you're a sleeping giant who needs a kick in the pants every day. Either way, BadassChampion.com, and you'll be joined at the hip for 12 months. You won't be able to misbehave. You won't be able to make your excuses. You won't be able to complain. You won't be able to level down because you're joined at the hip. And if you don't 10x all areas of your life in 12 months, I'm going to get rid of you. There you go. There's another example of joined at the hip. You give me $50,000 if you don't 10x all parts of your life. And it's up to you to do it, but I'll show you how. If you don't 10x your money, your income, your wealth, your marriage, your kids, the whole thing. If you don't 10x it all, you and I are joined at the hip. After the 12 months, you're gone. You're not invited back. If you do 10x it and you choose to be back, that's great. I don't care whether you join or you don't join, but if you do join, you and I are joined at the hip for the next 12 months. I hope that scares you, because that's what masterminds are about. I hope being around the guys that I bring into these things pushes you and scares you and makes you nervous, because that's how growth happens. And it's awesome. It's like osmosis. You can't get away. You cannot not get better. You cannot misbehave because of all the association, the rules, but mostly because you're joined at the hip with winners. Winners aren't losers. Losers aren't winners. BadassChampion.com. 2 words that changed my life. 2 words that can change your life. Be relentless.